Have you ever felt like life should come with a user's guide, but the entire chapter on the teenage years was just ripped out? Well, today, we're going to try and write that chapter. We are diving deep inside the adolescent brain to understand this incredible and often chaotic period of transformation. Let's get into it.
You know that sudden pull toward friends, that craving for new experiences, the emotional roller coasters? What if I told you it's not just a phase they'll grow out of? The real answer isn't about their attitude, it's about architecture. It is all happening inside their brain. Honestly, if you take one thing away from this, let it be this. What we often write off as teenage drama is really just the visible result of a brain going through a massive renovation. This isn't a choice or some kind of character flaw. It is pure biology in action.
So, let's look at the blueprints for this whole construction project. The absolute key to understanding everything is a concept that neuroscientists call the developmental mismatch, and it's a game changer. Okay, to get the teenage brain, you really only need to know two key systems. First, you've got the limbic system. Think of this as the brain's gas pedal. It's all about emotion, reward, and that powerful drive for new things. And it gets supercharged early in puberty. Then you have the prefrontal cortex. This is the brakes. It's in charge of judgment, planning, and impulse control. And here's the kicker. It isn't fully developed until your mid-20s.
And that creates the developmental mismatch. For pretty much a decade, the teenage brain is running on a super sensitive gas pedal with brakes that are still being built. You see the problem, right? That one single gap explains so much. The intense feelings, the sometimes questionable decisions, and that powerful attraction to taking risks.
And it's not just about the wiring, it's the chemistry too. The brain's sensitivity to dopamine, that's the feel-good reward chemical, is at an all-time high. At the same time, oxytocin, the bonding hormone, is making social connections feel incredibly, intensely gratifying. Put those two together and you've got a powerful chemical cocktail that makes friends and excitement feel like the absolute center of the universe.
Now, all this construction happening inside the brain doesn't just stay there. Nope, it's the command center that kicks off the second major renovation project of adolescence, the body's own wild growth spurt.
Puberty, of course, is what gets this physical transformation going. The timing is different for everyone, but generally it starts for girls somewhere between 9 and 14, and for boys a little later, between 10 and 17. And for girls, a huge milestone, menarche, usually happens right around age 12 or 13.
And here's a fun fact. This growth doesn't happen evenly. It follows this really specific, kind of awkward pattern, which explains why teens can sometimes look a bit out of proportion. Their hands and feet grow first, then their arms and legs shoot out, and finally, their torso and shoulders fill in to catch up. It's literally a head-to-toe upgrade in progress.
Okay, so let's connect the dots. Let's take that brain mismatch, the strong gas pedal and the weak brakes, and see how it affects the way teens navigate a world that's suddenly full of new risks and exciting rewards.
And this quote, right here, gets to the absolute heart of teenage risk-taking. It's not that they don't see the danger. They do. It's just that their brains are biologically wired to value the potential reward, especially a social reward, like impressing their friends, so much more intensely than an adult's brain does. The reward just feels bigger than the risk.
This whole risk-reward calculation plays out in some really high-stakes situations. Take sexual health, for example. When that reward-seeking limbic system is firing on all cylinders, the prefrontal cortex needs the best possible information to have a chance at hitting the brakes. And that's why understanding the huge difference in effectiveness between contraceptive methods is so critical. An informed choice is just a better defended choice.
And because the brain is still a construction zone, it's also uniquely vulnerable. Introducing substances like marijuana during this critical window is just not the same as it is for a fully developed adult brain. It can actually interfere with the wiring process itself, potentially leading to long-term problems with memory, learning, and even mental health.
So knowing all of this, how can we actually support adolescents through this challenging, but let's be honest, amazing journey? Well, it really seems to come down to a few key pillars of well-being.
Let's start with a big one, sleep. This is just staggering. Teenagers need 8 to 10 hours of sleep for all that brain construction to happen correctly. But get this, over 90% of them simply aren't getting it. That sleep debt affects everything, from their mood to their ability to learn. And listen, it's not just about them staying up late on their phones, okay? There is a real biological shift in their internal clocks, their circadian rhythms, that makes it genuinely hard for them to feel sleepy before 11 p.m. and even harder to wake up for school. Their bodies are literally fighting against those early start times.
With all this physical and social change going on, it's also a really vulnerable time for the development of eating disorders. That intense focus on peers and where you fit in can collide with some really complex psychological pressures, making it a critical time to understand the signs of conditions like anorexia, bulimia, and binge eating disorder.
And finally, we have to talk about mental health. Because this under construction phase is also when the foundations of lifelong mental well-being are being laid. And I want you to really let this sink in. Half of all lifetime mental illnesses begin by age 14. Half!
And by age 24, that number jumps to 75%. This tells us something so incredibly important. Adolescence isn't some dress rehearsal for adult life. It is the main event. It is the most critical window we have for identifying mental health challenges and providing support.
So we end with this question. Once you understand that the teenage brain is a work in progress, it changes everything, doesn't it? It reframes frustrating behaviors as just developmental stages. It calls for empathy instead of anger and guidance instead of judgment. So the real question for all of us is, how can we be better architects and support systems for the incredible construction taking place?